Guest services. Okay. So that's how I met her originally, years and years ago, probably 15 years ago, probably about. So I met her then. We used to just walk. Her husband got ill, but she had this knee replacement. Right now I'm not needing to live. But she's like, I don't want to.
We produce exhibition experiences. We design exhibitions that are to socially increase social engagement and conversation and connection. So we have a program all year round. I just want to give a little announcement. We have camps coming up in July, so July 7th to 11th. We have comics camp with Merrick Bennett, who's an award-winning cartoonist, and we have a mural art camp with Alison Biondo. So one of the things I wanted to, because I've been reflecting about storytelling, and it's a different kind of listening, right? We listen to the news, and it seems that that I find, this is my personal experience, when I listen to the news, it's this kind of reporting. I'm very much outside of myself. And I end up getting pretty angry and frustrated, and I start to, it's just so agitating. Unlike storytelling, which, really moves me inward, and I get to float along a particular thread that is really going along certain details of a story. And I think that's the power of storytelling, because it's one story that everybody will be able to interpret. And that's when the story becomes pretty personal. And even though it's a collective experience, its range is to sort of hit everybody in different ways. So I really appreciate the gods are with us. We have wonderful storytellers here. We have Larry Guild, we have George Woodard, Monica Callan, and Ferene Paris. I'll introduce Monica Callan first. She's an actor, director, designer, and educator, teaching theater and visual art in environments that span prisons, conservatories, and museums. Among her many other hats, she's a co-founder and artistic director of Grange Hall Cultural Center, a multidisciplinary art center in central Vermont. And she's also on the board of a Crossroads Center for the Arts and New York Madness. Welcome, Monica.
Thank you. New York Madness is no longer with us, so I'm not on that anymore. That's okay. But I am on the board of New Stage Players in Waterbury. Sam called me, and she's like, so what can, you're a storyteller. And I'm like, yeah, I do theater, but doing this kind of storytelling is a little different for me. I'm always inside a character. And Sam and I were talking about what stories mean. And as a theater maker, things are super important. You have, it's a tool of the storytelling. So, a lot of people, how many people do theater and make theater in the room? Wow. Okay. Cool. No hands went up in this room. This is definitely the theater room, so I might just do this part of it to here. When Sam was talking to me about what kind of story, and we were just riffing about the different stories, and things have such a significance in people's lives. And in theater, you're working with a story and people in a moment in time that is really critical to their transformation as a human being. They are in a place where they are not able to go backwards in time. They can't undo what is done, and they have to move forward and become a better person, or become a worse person, or become whatever the story is telling them they need to be. And as actors, we have to justify all of these decisions inside the story that are not our story and not our choices, but the choices are mapped out for us in the script. And sometimes the things that are so important to the character are the things that help in the transformation. I'm in a show. I'm doing so many things right now, and Sam called me up, and I said, I really want to do this because this is a really cool concept. I love how she's bringing attention to things and all the levels of things and how things play out in our lives, and to the point where people can't let go of their things and they have storage units full of stuff, and all of the ways that people manifest things in their lives. And a lot of times things mean something emotionally, or it's a part of their story. It's a part of their identification a lot of times. And in theater, that's part of what it is. So she called me up, and I said, well, I'm in a show, and it actually has a monologue. This is the show that I'm in. It's called Baby Cakes. It's a new play written by Leela Titleman. And it's being done by Full Circle Theater in Burlington. They're a new group, and they do really cool stuff. And so I was really excited to be a part of it. And so when she said, I really want you to do this, I said, well, actually, my monologue is there's a monologue in the play that I'm trying to figure out where I can stand for this, that addresses that. And the play is actually very funny, but it is about losing children and what that process is for some people. So it's got a lot of gravitas, but there's a lot of levity in it as well. So I play the part of Pam, and she is the person who, her thing is this group that she's formed to help people heal. And so this is, we have moments in the play where we see these raw moments of these people in the group and how they relate to their grief in their private moments. So I guess I'll have to put it on the stand.
Yeah, sure, you can if you want.
This is all an improv. Not just slide it, snap it down in, and don't press the button. Okay, here we go. All right, I'm not gonna, I guess I can't. I'm not gonna know where to look. Sorry, I should have checked this before. So, this wall is a thing. Hi, I'm Pam.
Hi, Pam.
I don't talk about this. Nothing personal, really. So I didn't prepare anything, I'm sorry. This is harder than it looks. Being up here. I still drive the car that he was killed in. Strange. I can't afford a new one. Well, maybe I don't want a new one. I don't know. I had it repainted. I had some guy from down the street bleach out everything, replace parts of the interior so it looks a little newer, a little less morbid. Because who wants to be reminded that their son was murdered every time they drive to the grocery store, drive to the movies, drive? I don't want to bleach out every memory of him. That's where he spent his last moments. Sometimes I take a blanket out to the driveway and I sleep in the back. Just feet away from a perfectly good bed, and there I am squeezing into a Honda Civic. I worked so hard to hide this stuff, and now I'm blowing my cover. I swear, I can smell him in there. Maybe it's his blood or a little bit of his DNA. I can feel how scared he was right at the end. Oh, people really did offer me a lot of things after his death. Services, food. They were just so happy it didn't happen to them. They kept bringing over offerings to stack the deck in their favor, and it's just going to happen again, just like that, just the same way. It always does. That's why they were so scared. It's just a matter of time. Scene. That's it. So I have to get really specific about that car. Like what the color is, what shape it's in, what year it is. I mean, like have it be really tangible to me as an actor. And so, when I'm talking about climbing into that car, I am smelling the upholstery. I am, I'm seeing the ragged rug on the floor. I'm seeing all of those details in order to help mine what we need to mine to tell the story. So things are really super important. So I find this a very fascinating subject matter because it's something I need to delve into every time I take on a role. So, thank you. If you'd like to come to the show, I'll leave these. It's at the end of the month.
Okay, George. Now, George, Waterbury Center dairy farmer for 48 years, who in between milkings managed to do a lot of other things.
Let's see. Yeah, what's that? No, I don't want to. But I can't remember anything anymore. Past my name. Say it again. I heard that, but I didn't hear what it was. So it's interesting. An object like what you've got in here and the stories that are connected to it. Can you hear that all right?
Yeah.
Yeah. And the stories that are connected to it are interesting because they may not mean anything to anybody else other than the person that is telling the story about. The stories may be interesting and are interesting, but the object may not be anything anybody else is interested in. Does that make sense? I'll probably ask you a lot during this if that makes sense. Okay, what's the most important thing in the world? Well, okay, that's a given. She said love, That's a given. What is it?
Your health.
Milk! That's right! That's right. What's the most important thing taught in school?
Milk?
Milk! Well, I'm going to go off here a little bit. Whole milk. Whole milk. Okay? But that's not the answer to the question. The answer is music. Okay? So if I was to play this song, how many of you would join in with me? You are my sunshine, my only sunshine. You make me happy when skies are gray. You'll never know, dear, how much I love you. Please don't take my sunshine. See what I mean? Everybody knows that song. There's a little girl next door that doesn't like it. I guess they played it too much in elementary school. So, the most important thing What's the most important thing your parents taught you? That's a hard one. How do you whittle them down to one? Can't. Because you carry all of them with you the rest of your life, right? But today, Pa, will you dig out that guitar and play me the song about the rooster? I grew up in the mountains, up where the snakes have legs, where the hoot owls speak in English and the roosters. Now, when you're school age, you're influenced by the music your older sister listens to coming from the record player in a room. You ain't nothing but a hound dog crying all the time. Return to sender, ba-doo. Poetry in motion. The night has 1,000 eyes. She loves you, yeah. How many of you recognize those? Show of hands. See what I mean? But then something happened between the Beatles, something happened to me between the Beatles and Get Your Motor Running soundtrack from Easy Rider, which included, I would like to dive beneath the white cascading waters. She may beg, she may plead, she may argue with your logic and mention all the things you lose, which really have no meaning. In the end, she will surely know I wasn't born to follow. What happened in between? Pa buys a record he sees advertised on TV, 25 greatest country music hits. That big eight wheeler rolling down the track means your true loving daddy ain't a coming back, 'cause I'm moving on. I'll soon be gone. It wasn't God who made honky-tonk angels. Your cheating heart will tell on you. Now on WDEV one time I heard things I learned in a hobo jungle were things they never taught me in a classroom. I can't remember the rest of it. Anyway, it was Merle Haggard, and I thought, who has a name like Merle Haggard? What a name. But anyway, his stuff stuck with me. Then there were the Dillards on reruns of the Andy Griffith Show. There's a time for us to wander when time is young and so are we. The woods are greener over yonder. The path is new beneath our feet. Oh, let me be your salty dog, or I won't be your man at all. Honey, let me be your salty dog. And then there was Hee-Haw. Hee-Haw, Saturday night. I'd sit in front of the TV with hot dogs and beans and record the songs. And if I didn't like them right off, I'd erase them. Now, Hee-Haw was where you got good music put together with corny. And that's not necessarily mean it's bad. Humor, okay? Hound dog howling, so forlorn, laziest dog ever was born. He's howling because he's sitting on a thorn, too darn tired to move over. That did it. Beatles, out. Rolling Stones, out. Dylan, out. Three Dog Night, out. Because I wasn't born to follow. So, what's the most important thing your parents taught you? Pa, can you teach me how to play the guitar? And in 27 words, he did. Start on C. If it sounds like it goes up, go to F. If it sounds like it goes down, go to G, go back to C. Okay. Hang down your head, Tom Dooley. Hang down your head and cry. Cry. Hang down your head, Tom Dooley. Poor boy, you're going to. Die on the mountain. Then on to Vermont Technical College with the guitar, where I got an FCC license to be a college radio DJ, and I played a lot of Merle Haggard because I could. And I turned 21 in prison, doing life without parole. No one could steer me right, but Mama tried to raise me better, but her pleading I denied. That leaves only wings, that leaves, because Mama tried. One night I locked, so I had 2 hours Tuesday night from 8 to 10, okay? I locked myself into the radio studio and played constant Merle Haggard for 2 hours. And people come out of the doors and they were banging on the window and they say, "Stop playing that crap. What the heck's the matter with you anyway? We want to hear Knights in White Satin, or Brandy, you're a fine girl, what a good wife you'd be, or Bend to Canaan and I want to go back again." Instead, I was killing them softly with his song. Because I wasn't born to follow. After VTC, I started milking cows, bought an upright bass, and taught Steve, my little brother, how to play it. We entered the second annual country music contest at the Barrie Auditorium. There was a, there was 40, let's see, where the hell was I? Oh, there was a 40-band runoff in the afternoon, and the 6 winners had to do a 30-minute set for the evening show. And we won. Yeah. It's been a mystery to me. Years went by, Steve became a veterinarian, and I continued to milk. Then we found someone to milk. I took a weekend off, went to California for 3 years. I'm going to California, where they sleep out every night. I'm going to California, where they sleep out every night. I may ride the blind, ain't got no railroad fare. I was in a play called Beau about hobos and trains during the Depression. Probably the worst director I've ever had, which made me realize just because you're in LA or New York or Chicago doesn't mean you're good. I rented a fiddle from McCabe's guitar shop for the show. After the play closed, I returned the fiddle. The lady said, "Do you want to put the rental towards the purchase of the fiddle?" I said, "No, I've got one, thank you." "Well, is there anything else in the shop that you would like to put the rental towards buying?" I said, "Well, there's a guitar over on the wall there I like off well, but I can't afford it." "Put it on layaway." I said, "Okay, here it is." The first song I played was, let's see, 4 years and years I've rambled. I drank my wine and gambled. Then one day, well, I thought I would settle down. I met a pretty lady. She said she'd be my baby. We'd build a cottage in the old hometown. But somehow I can't give up my good old rambling ways. Lord, the railroad trains are calling me away. Well, I may be rough and I may be wild, I may be tough, but that's just my style. I can't give up my good old rough and rowdy ways. Hi, lady, old lady, old lady. Now, when I came home, let's see. Yeah, when I come home after being in California, I was asked to come up with a fundraising variety show. That turned out to be the 17th annual Groundhog Opry. First time we did it was the 17th annual. The second year we did it was the 19th. And somebody said, "How long have they been doing this?" And the person in front of him turned around and said, I've seen it every year. And eventually we traveled to town halls and opera houses all over the state, introducing audiences to the imaginary town of Woodchuck, Vermont, and radio station WSMN, where the men need a shave, the women ought to shave, and the children are all dirty. The Groundhog Opry became the most anticipated event of the winter season. That's self-proclaimed. So on a $7 ticket, and after 14 years, there was enough money in the Woodchuck Theater bank account to make a feature film, The Summer of Walker House. Right there. And then later, The Farm Boy. All starting with music, 2 guitars, and a young boy who wanted his father to play the rooster song. I grew up in the mountains, up where the snakes had legs, where the hoot owls sing speaking English and the roosters lay square eggs. I shaped my beard and mustache the morning I was born. Then I beat up my old man and I drank his rye and corn. I am a true blue fellow, they call me True Blue Bill. Ain't never told a falsehood, ain't I bet I never will. Thank you very much. Thank you.
That was fun. Ferene Paris. She founded All Heart Inspirations in 2020. Through storytelling, Ferene Paris creates heart-centered spaces through live performances, keynotes, interactive workshops, and community engagements. Known for living out loud as a Black Haitian femme, she embodies courageous truth-telling and vulnerable vibes as an artist. Aspiring to make a collective difference within her local community in Vermont and beyond, one story at a time. All Heart Inspirations has manifested over 150 offerings. I'd like to welcome Ferene Paris. Let's see. Do you want me to bring your piece?
Yeah, I'll take it.
You'll take it?
Yeah.
Okay.
Oh, no. I was just trying to get my, and my kid also asking me for a sleepover. At the moment, I was like, just 5 to 7, that's all I need, so. We're here. I needed just 2 hours.
Okay.
All right. Hello, everyone. My name is Ferene. I love just saying my name into spaces, just in case you were like, what, Serene, who? It's just been missaid for 43 years. So as a beautiful reminder, my name is Ferene. I am so proud to be a daughter of Haitian parents, Haitian immigrant parents, and I stand here before you, blessed to speak, thankful for my ancestors, and let's just have a heartfelt moment for the next 10 minutes. So Sam, thank you again for inviting me to share my story. As shared, I am the founder of All Heart Inspirations. And I'm just curious, did anybody know about All Heart Inspirations before this night? Oh, you're my kind of crowd. Yes. Because for me, when you as a person find something that makes you get out of bed each day, when you as a person find something that allows you to add to the collective good a community is deserving of having, when you find something that allows you to speak up and dismantle things when needed, it's just a blessing. And this is what All Heart Inspirations is. And it was like, Ferene, you do storytelling? How is that little thing? First of all, she'll be 5 this year, right? And so for 5 years, starting this dream in the onset of a pandemic, and being like, no, there's still room to still dream, in the spirit of not knowing what will be in a few days. And it's like asking yourself, what does the community need? I was very passionate about my work in higher education at UVM. I was in higher ed for 15 years. But I don't know if you've ever done something and no longer it's just not speaking to your heart. And it's like, I don't know, me and UVM, when we first started dating, we understood each other, you know? But at some point, we both started moving in directions that didn't align. And it just wasn't fair to keep asking the other, right? And it's like, do you quit your job? Yeah, actually. Because I'm at a point in my life, especially after surviving moving through a pandemic, that life is not promised, right? Like, we so easily can just keep going through the motions of life. And so moments like this that invites us to slow down, to like take the time and gift people moments to share parts of themselves. And for a moment, that spotlight reminds them to keep doing what you're doing, because you're exactly where you need to be. Or asking the real questions, not just, oh, how are you? Not just where you live. What does love mean to me? How do I show love to myself? Who am I? Can people in this room really answer that? For me, I'm Ferene. I'm a daughter of immigrants. I am a single mom recently. I have survived going through a divorce that I didn't think would happen. I navigate life as a Black femme in one of the whitest states in this country. I take medicine daily to deal with my anxiety and depression. But you know what? If a therapist is what I need to keep doing this thing called life, then let's just say yes to therapy and not feel shame about having a life coach that hypes me up every day. I love music, I love chicken wings, but the one with 2 bones, not the one. There is a difference, right? Like, who am I? And I will put myself in the streets to protect those I love. I actually do know what I'm willing to stand on and die for. Because we must ask ourselves these questions. We must ask ourselves, what is my gift to the world? When I was a child, that question, what did you want to be when you grow up? I wanted to be a pediatrician. Now, why did I want to be a pediatrician? It didn't make sense to me until 18 years later when I had to pick a major for college. So for me, my pediatrician, bless her heart, was Dr. Coleman. And I remember her like just yesterday. And she was just so amazing. As I shared, my parents are Haitian immigrants, and so navigating English, advocating for your child, for a doctor, all I remember was just how loving Dr. Coleman was with my mom. The time she took to pronounce our names, the time she took to answer the same question 5 times in a row, and never once making my mom feel she was doing too much. She was beautiful in trying to make her understand what health in America meant versus Haiti. Like, I was just like, she was such a vibe. To the point where I went to Dr. Coleman until I was in grad school. I would check in and they're like, who's your kid? And I'm like, it's me. And she had to have that meeting with me where she's like, it's time for you to go, Ferene. And I'm like, but who will be my doctor? And I just think it's rare. I think it's rare to have such a beautiful relationship with someone who's medically kind of taking care of you. But how did I arrive there? It was seeing the stories that could just happen in a doctor's visit between my mom and my doctor. So I thought, oh yeah, a pediatrician. Then I would apply for college. It involved biology, it involved cells and blood. And I was like, oh, no. I just want to love on some people. And so psych major. Psychology major with a minor in sociology. It's just, till this day, I am 43 years old, and I think of Dr. Coleman, right? And so the power of stories, whether she knows she meant that much to me, but sometimes I think it's just a gift to share people's name in spaces that they'll never be in. Because maybe it's a reminder for us, what relationship do I have with my doctor? My doctor now is Dr. Whitney Calkins, and she is amazing. And it was because I took the time and I was like, I need you to see me. If you don't see that you have a Black femme in front of you, we're not gonna diagnose me right. Over 80% of black women are diagnosed with fibros by the time they're 50. Do you know that nobody ever told me that fact until I got diagnosed with them, right? What would it have looked like to kind of share those stories? And that's why I love Dr. Culkins, because she has invited her as a practitioner to see me wholly. And who knew the beautiful role she would play in helping me process my divorce, right? Not just, are you eating right or whatever? It's like, no, let me take care of you. Because if I pour into you, then you can pour into your girls, you can keep pouring into your purpose, right? And that happens because we took the time to share stories. This piece, when you have a moment to look around the room and breathe in the variety of different objects that are in here, for me as a storyteller, I just believe in the power of a question. I believe in the power of looking at somebody and just sincerely asking, like, not just how are you, because we're just gonna say okay, but like, how is your heart today? Would you give it a color? When was the last time you had a moment of joy? When was the last time you drank water? Have you fed your soul? What gets you out of bed right now? Or what's keeping you in bed, right? It's all of those questions. It's all of those feelings, because that's the beautiful fluidity of what it means to be human. My friends and family often talk about the way that I parent. I mean, me and my daughters, we feel, we express, and all of the things, but I just think it's so important because I can think of younger versions of myself that just wanted someone to listen. Trust me, I could have told my parents some things if they just would have listened, right? And so too often, we are inviting people to don't be too loud. We dim their lights. We ask them to take a step back, but what does that do? It might make us miss on the beautiful gifts that they were destined to give us in this world. And so I am so grateful that a really hard situation at the University of Vermont inspired me to just bet on the best thing to bet on, and that is myself. Like, what does it mean to go all in and being like, I am just rooting for the person who has done this thing called life with me from the beginning of time? And it's been such a beautiful ride. I'm storytelling in parks and on sailboats and in classrooms, even in sex shops, Earth and Salt in Burlington, because moms, intimacy is deeply important. Don't let that child lose that part of you. So that's the joy, that's the power of stories. And so this board is just inviting you, look at questions, but every item on this board has a story for me. Every item on this board, whether it's Jen Berger, she is an amazing local artist who lives in Winooski. My daughter Melody is such an artist, and for all the times I let her draw on walls and didn't say anything, she's pretty fucking good. You know what I mean? I have people who draw me when I perform. These are all different self-portraits, and just the gift of people just reminding me that I see you. Or like pictures of my culture in Haiti, or flowers given to you when you just needed them. I just hold on to things so that I can travel back in time and remember the story, remember the feeling, remember the moment. Let's keep living out loud. Thank you.
What a diversity, huh? So amazing. Okay. Larry, where are you? Larry's a woodworker from Warren who has a story to tell. It's part of a series, Life as a Carpenter, and he's been a storyteller his whole life. And he often participates in live moth storytelling events. Here's Larry.
Hi. Thank you all for coming. Can you all hear me okay?
Yes.
My wife Darcy's got involved in the gallery here, and it's been a real pleasure for us. And where's Sam? There you are. Sam, I have come to believe I think you are a superhero, of the Marvel comic variety. And your superpowers are building community, inspiring creativity, and empowering artists. I've talked to a few people that have done shows here that just would never consider doing anything like that. And I'm absolutely, like, my brain is exploding. Like, what am I doing here? But, you convinced me to hang some pieces on the wall and tell a story about them. And so I'd just like to give a shout out to Sam. I know there's a lot of people here that really have appreciated what you've done. And wow, unbelievably diverse performances tonight. Just, I feel like I'm the straight act. But I have a lot of ground to cover. I'm not sure what I was thinking when I put 3 items up, but I'm gonna try and get this done in a fair amount of time, so buckle up. In 1971, I was 11 years old. I was making a transition from kind of being a cute little kid to a juvenile delinquent. My parents had gotten divorced. My world had just disintegrated, and I was pissed off. I was getting into a lot of trouble, and everybody in my world was really concerned. My grandfather stepped in, and he had kind of stepped in to take care of. My dad was nowhere to be found and not really part of our family, and so he kind of stepped in to sort of take part of that role. And he was as classic a Yankee man as you could possibly imagine. Really kind of scary. He had unbelievably intense blue eyes. You did not want to upset him. You just wanted to make sure that he was okay with whatever you were doing. And so he stepped right up and said, I know what to do. I know how to fix Larry. I'm going to put him to work. He lived in Fenwick Island, Delaware, and he owned a little ranch house where he and my grandmother lived. And he had bought a building lot in the next neighborhood over and decided that he was going to build a house, which he had no idea how to do, and they were going to sell the house they were in, and they were going to move into the other house. And he was going to make some money, and he decided that I would make a perfect helper for him. So after I got out of school, I moved in with my grandparents, and he woke me up every morning at 6 o'clock, and we piled into his Oldsmobile with a trunk full of carpentry tools and drove over to the job site, and we were not allowed to make any noise until 7 a.m. And so my grandfather, being my grandfather, this tells you a lot about what kind of guy he was. He would stand there and wait until the second hand got up to 12, exactly 7 o'clock. He would just pull the trigger on the circular saw and stand there for 30 seconds. I guess his theory was, I'm going to wake you up, so just get up. We were in a neighborhood. This was the only empty lot in like a crowded neighborhood. And, everybody's on vacation. We're at the beach. But my grandfather just really didn't seem to be too concerned with anything except getting whatever it was we were supposed to get done. It was a Sears Roebuck kit house. So we had a little card table. Remember those Sears Roebuck catalogs? They're like this thing. This thing was like this thick. And we just went through it, page by page, highlining and underlining, and this is what we're doing today. And when we're done with that, this is what we're going to do. The piles of lumber were all throughout the building site with labels on them telling you what to do. I mean, basically, it was kind of idiot-proof, And so we built a house together. And I don't remember being upset about it. I don't think I was super excited about it. But I don't remember, being miserable about it. It was hot. We were in Delaware, you know, at the beach, and the neighbors were not happy about us at all. There was one fella that lived, his house couldn't have been more than 10 feet from the house we were building. And he was some big deal lawyer from Washington, D.C., who came up on the weekends, but his family was living in the house. And, you know, they were on vacation. They're trying to relax. They're trying to enjoy their summer. And, you know, they got to deal with my grandfather. And he had, this lawyer had absolutely no trouble coming over and expressing his opinion about that we were a pain in his ass. And time went by, and we had the structure of the house up. We were putting the plywood on the roof, and my grandfather was really looking forward to getting to the point where he had a closed-in structure so we could work in the rain. The only days I got off were the rainy days. And it was hot. I was a little kid. I didn't really know, but I'm sure I must have been feeling kind of weird. And apparently I passed out and rolled off the roof. And the lawyer and his wife were doing the dishes at their kitchen sink, and I just came right by the window and landed on the yard. And I woke up, you know, and they went, my grandfather had no idea. He went running around trying to find my grandfather. Everybody's screaming. And of course, I was passed out. But I woke up, and I'm looking up at the Twin Towers of my grandfather and this lawyer screaming at each other. And the lawyer was saying, a 70-year-old man and an 11-year-old kid cannot build a house. We worked through the rest of the summer. We did build a house. And this is the tough part. At the end of the summer, my grandfather sat me down, and he looked me in the eye, and he said, Larry, you are a good kid. You are going to be okay. And I am really proud that you and I, were able to do this together this summer. You proved that a 7-year-old man and an 11-year-old kid can build a house. And he gave me a check for $100. Like, you know, to me that was like $1 million. But the feeling that I got at that table, I don't think I had really ever experienced before in my life. You know, fulfillment, pride, feeling good about myself. And fast forward 35 years, I have done every job in construction. You know, I started out as a carpenter, foreman, project manager, estimator, company owner. And what I realized after years of doing it was that I had to be the guy doing the work. I couldn't manage properties. I had no fulfillment whatsoever. I didn't enjoy my job at all. All I was doing was running around dealing with people who were upset about something or, you know, whatever. It's just, I couldn't do it. So I was living in Amherst, Massachusetts at the time, raising 2 kids, happily married, and started Guile Woodworking. And I hired the 5 best carpenters that I knew, and we built a reputation as being the guys that you called when you had something really complicated that needed to be done. We took a lot of pride in our work. We went from one project to another. We built a great reputation, and it was really fun. It was a really, really fun time in my life. I can't remember if I mentioned, but I was living in Amherst, Massachusetts, and one of the clients I had became Amherst College. And they went through an alumni fundraising program in the late 80s and 90s where they raised billions of dollars. And so I knew all the guys that were in charge of spending that money and renovating the campus. I was a soccer coach, and I had coached 2 of their sons. One was the head architect, and one was the guy that ran the whole department. And they were good friends of mine. And they would call me to do all kinds of cool projects over there. I don't know if you've ever been to Amherst College campus, but it is breathtaking. And I want to tell you about 2 projects I did for Amherst College. Little history first. Amherst College hired a pretty well-known Oxford-educated professor from Wales in the late 40s. And he had come from a patriarchal family in a little town in Wales called Pontypool. And, think Downton Abbey, massive castle, prestige, servants. And he just kind of got sick of it for some reason and decided that he was going to take this job at Amherst College. He sold the castle, and being a man of books and learned, he loved his library. So he hired a bunch of carpenters and had the paneling from the library removed. He had it shipped to the United States. He built a beautiful house right in the middle of Amherst College campus, which he named after his hometown, Pontypool. And he had a room in the basement of this house that was a replica of his library in his castle. And he had the paneling installed in this room. And he had an illustrious career as a professor at Amherst College, and eventually passed away and left the house to the college. They had no need for a residential house in the middle of campus, so it just sat there for 50 years. It had a leaky roof, it had a very wet basement, and they decided when they started raising all this money that they were finally going to do something about this old house in the middle of campus. And they called me and they brought me over, and we went down into the basement, which was totally, the place was boarded up. So it was really dark. It was like Silence of the Lambs, It was like super creepy. And it was really musty and moldy, just awful, weird basement. And we opened up this door, and I'm like, you gotta be kidding me. I mean, look at this room. The paneling was just spectacular. But it had been covered with black mold. It had just grown all of this grossness on it. So you couldn't even really see like the color of the wood or any of that. But I could just tell by looking at it that it was not of the United States. We don't have stuff like this in the United States. This is thousands of years old. And so I took my crew of merry carpenters and we removed the library. We put it into a dry storage facility and dehydrated it, and they renovated Pontypool. And a year and a half later, we came back in, and they had constructed a conference room that, again, was a replica of the library in the castle. And we reinstalled the paneling in the library. And, just who gets to do this stuff? Talk about working with something that was priceless. One of the interesting projects that came up during this process was that they had brought some restoration firm in, and I brought them to the storage facility, and they had looked at the paneling, and they had come up with this chemical process that they were going to put the paneling through once we had it installed to restore it. And they sent a crew that came when we were done installing it, and the foreman of the crew walks in, he takes one look at the paneling, and he says, "No fucking way am I touching that." And got back in his van and drove back to New York City. And so we went through a bunch of local people trying to figure out what to do, and everybody was terrified because you looked at this stuff, and it is the paneling that's on the wall over here. That's a sample. There was a few extra panels, and they gave them to me as a gift, and I had them for years, had no idea what to do with them, but now is the cover to our entertainment center. But I was goofing around with the panels, and the whole time I was working, my fingers were really getting this kind of weird, like waxy feeling. And so I was like, I wonder if it was treated with paraffin. I wonder if it had been waxed at some point. So, anyway, what I ended up having to do was heating the paneling with like a hair dryer kind of thing, and then taking a toothbrush, and gently scoring all of the paneling. And I had 3 guys working with me, and it took us a month and a half and that's why it's the color that it is now.
One panel?
It was a whole room. It was a whole room, bigger than this space. Both of these. It was a large room. Had 2 fireplaces. The paneling was about 7 feet tall, and really was just a very, very fulfilling project. The other project that I would like to tell you guys about is I built probably a dozen podiums for Amherst College. And when they were going through and spending all this money renovating campus, when they would renovate one of the buildings, you know, they all had lecture halls in them or classrooms or whatever it was. And I would get together with my architectural buddies and we would come up with a design of a podium that kind of matched the interior of the room. And, you know, I built all different kinds of podiums, but they were all massive, they were big. And they wanted one that was more mobile. And so I built the one that's in the photograph there. It was cherry, it had the Amherst College emblem on the front of it, and it was lightweight so a couple people could pick it up and carry it around, and they moved it around campus when they had events in the cafeteria or some classroom didn't have a podium. And Amherst College in 2005 decided that they wanted to award Nelson Mandela with an honorary doctorate in humanities. And so they planned this huge event, like really, Nelson Mandela, I mean, who doesn't love Nelson Mandela? You know, he represented everything that was good about humans and that we can actually be loving and kind and intelligent. And, you know, it was just a real honor for Amherst College that he accepted to receive this honorary doctorate. And he was 87 years old in 2005, and the plan was that he was going to fly from South Africa to New York City. He was going to spend a few days in New York City, and he was going to come up to Amherst College for the weekend, and then he was going to go down to Washington, D.C. to spend the rest of his visit with the President of the United States. And when he got to New York City, his entourage had to call Amherst College and say, Nelson is too weak to come to Amherst College. We're so sorry. But we are not going to be able to come receive the award. And so, you know, one thing about people at Amherst College is they are wicked smart. And so they said, well, what if we come to New York City? And so they packed up my lightweight mobile podium. They threw that in a van. They loaded up a dozen school buses of anybody who was anybody at Amherst College. They drove down to St. Bartholomew's Cathedral in Midtown Manhattan. And if you've never been there, you should go. It is the American Notre Dame. Absolutely spectacular sanctuary. And they awarded Nelson Mandela his honorary doctorate at St. Bartholomew's Cathedral. And you can go online to the Amherst College website and you can listen to his speech, which is one of the most beautiful things I've ever really heard. And when they all piled back onto the bus, my 2 architect buddies called me. And I had known nothing about any of this. And he told me the story, and then he said, wait a minute. And he held up the phone, and there was just, this is another moment, applause. A bus full of applause. And people going, Larry, amazing, the podium was great, you know, thank you. You know, and I'm right back at that kitchen table with my grandfather, handing me that check for $100. I mean, who gets a job where you get those kind of emotions, you know? I feel so fortunate to have, I've had so many people that I've done work for come to me and just say, oh my God, Larry, I just love this thing, you know? And the table, which I built myself a new shop last year, and, you know, I think about my grandfather a lot, getting me started doing this. And I just thought, you know, I wonder, like, if I were to try and build something that's as good, as nice as I could, that uses all my skills, that like all my design influences, and like, what would it be? And I had built a desk last year where the legs were radiuses, and I thought, well, what if I made those radiuses actually into a circle, And that was the support for a table. You know, that would probably look pretty cool. And that's what I made. And it's kind of a thank you note to my grandfather. You know, it was like, Grandpa, look what you did. Who knew that he knew what I needed? But just a real big thank you to my grandfather, and a real big thank you to all of you for listening to my story.
Okay, anyone else want to share a story? Those were amazing. Any questions about any of those stories from anyone? Whoosh. Thank you.
Thank you.
Okay, I guess that's it. Party's over.